What is the best and most enjoyable cross-country interstate in America? Is it Interstate 10? Is it Interstate 40? Is it Interstate 90? Nope. It is Interstate 80. Now, I did a poll on this channel a few weeks ago asking you guys if you agreed that Interstate 80 was the best cross-country interstate. Well, the results came in and most of you did tend to agree. So on this video, we are going to actually take a deep look at what it is like to cross America on Interstate 80. We're going to go coast to coast, and when it's all said and done, you guys let me know if you think Interstate 80 is the best or one of those previously mentioned interstates is more enjoyable to drive across the country on. So go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe if you love the content, because we got a long journey ahead as we cross Interstate 80. All right, for this one, we're going to go west to east. San Francisco to New York City. So that means California is first this time around. Interstate 80 has what perhaps is the best beginning to any interstate highway out here in California. Coming up US 101, we are immediately greeted by the San Francisco skyline in all of its glory. Soon you will see that junction I-80 sign and the exit for the Bay Bridge. Wow, just look at that. And now it officially begins. 6 lanes, the San Francisco skyline, billboards everywhere. Oh yeah, let's go. We quickly reached the Bay Bridge, with us in the eastbound direction being on the lower deck on this portion. There's an exit here for Treasure Island, a man-made island in San Francisco Bay, which is also a part of the city and county of San Francisco. The span after that island is above board, and we can see the sky this time. Look at that fine engineering. Enjoy the palm trees here in California, as it is the only state with them along Interstate 80. At the other end of the bridge, we enter Oakland. I can hear 2 shorts blow the whistle already. Once in Oakland, we have a major interchange with the auxiliary routes, Interstate 880 and Interstate 580. Since I-80 is the only mainline interstate in the Bay Area, it has a ton of auxiliary routes here, with many of them as long as some mainline interstates in other states. I-580 is signed east-west, and the eastbound exit will run you down the East Bay cities, but functions as sort of a middle loop for cities like Oakland and Hayward. It then takes a turn to the east in Hayward and heads towards the Central Valley, to where it finally terminates at Interstate 5 near Tracy. Interstate 880 is signed north-south, and it is the more direct freeway here for the East Bay, running through downtown Oakland, down through Hayward, Fremont, Milpitas, before ultimately ending near downtown San Jose. In Oakland, the locals somehow made it up here under the bridges to decorate them with their artwork, if you want to call it that. The roadway gets extremely wide as we take a turn to the north, now concurrent with Interstate 580 through the cities of Emeryville and Albany. Berkeley is also here with its famous UC Berkeley campus. Soon, I-580 departs as you see signage for San Rafael. You can take that one to head over to that upscale Marin County city and drive over another pretty cool bridge. On Interstate 80, we are now bound for Vallejo and Sacramento. After I-580 leaves, we are on a configuration with 3 general purpose lanes and 1 HOV lane on each side. In California, the HOV lane restriction only applies between 5 and 10 a.m. and 3 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Scenery out here is becoming hilly as we begin climbing somewhat in elevation and approaching our next bridge, the Alfred Zampa Bridge. The northbound span was completed in 1958 and it is referred to as the Carquinez Bridge, while the newer southbound span completed in 2003 has the Alfred Zampa name. After crossing the bridge and paying the toll, we are finally in Vallejo. And speaking of tolls, in California, they will collect. I had plenty of toll invoices waiting for me in my mailbox when I got back home from my Northern California trip. So just keep that in mind. They will find you.
I will find you. And I will kill you.
Interstate 80 drops to 6 lanes in this area. Here we encounter another auxiliary route, I-780. This is a shorter one that will take you to Benicia and Martinez, as well as connect to Interstate 680. Continuing through Vallejo, there's a Six Flags on the northern side of town for a little family-friendly fun. We then get back to 8 lanes, and it's time for some more elevation climb. Now, I came out here in the summer, so it was pretty fascinating to experience the drastic temperature change from the coast over in San Francisco from these inland areas. You had it 70 75 degrees over in San Francisco, while it was well over 100 degrees in some of these more inland cities. Pretty amazing stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed the nice weather so far, because this is where it comes to an end. As we enter Fairfield, the county seat of Solano County, we now have a direct interchange with Interstate 680. I-680 is signed for Benicia and Martinez and functions as the outer loop for the East Bay area, running south until its terminus in San Jose at US 101. In this section, California has opted for express lanes rather than the normal HOV lanes. So this means you will have to pay, or else there are no free rides. But for now, the lane is in the testing phase and is free for a limited time only. Enjoy it while you can. The development is almost non-stop along the interstate, except in areas where the geography prevents it. And up next is Vacaville. One thing you got to give California credit for is the excellent condition of this roadway so far. Very few cracks or potholes up to this point. There's a giant in and out sign to remind you whose territory this is, as we also see signage for another auxiliary route. This time it is Interstate 505, which is signed for Redding. I-505 is a sort of shortcut route to connect I-5 and Interstate 80 without having to go through Sacramento. And after almost an hour of driving, we finally get a break in the development after Vacaville, and things give way to farms and other agricultural areas. Next up is Davis, as we enter Yolo County. It is known for its UC Davis campus. California 113 will take you north to the county seat of Woodland. In this area between Davis and Sacramento, California is working on the Yolo 80 Corridor Improvements Project, which aims to add managed lanes and other improvements to the roadway, so you might experience some slowdown here due to the construction. Approaching Sacramento, the signage is easy to miss in this area, as overhead signs have been temporarily replaced with orange construction signs. Interstate 80 traffic actually exits to the right, while the left 3 lanes become US 50. I actually missed this the first time I was here and accidentally continued home to US 50, so be alert. But hey, you get to catch the cool sign that shows the mileage to Ocean City, Maryland. After US 50, we're out of the construction zone and working with 6 lanes along what appears to be carpool or HOV lanes that have not yet opened. Interstate 80 bypasses the main part of Sacramento to the north, while US 50 was the exit if you wanted to get a better glimpse of the city. There's also a business 80 route that went into central Sacramento along with US 50. We've got a major interchange here with Interstate 5, which is signed for Redding and Los Angeles. And now we see Reno overhead for us on Interstate 80. Then after the 5, we're at 8 lanes, riding through the suburban glory northeast of Sacramento. We've got Citrus Heights, Roseville, and Rockland out here. Things start quieting down a bit after Rockland, as we are back to 6 lanes. And we keep those 6 lanes for quite a while, all the way through Auburn as we head into the mountains. This portion of Interstate 80 is a beautiful drive in the summer, but can be treacherous in the winter.
This latest storm dumping inches of snow in the Sierra. I-80 still closed to traffic, and traffic is being held on US 50 as well. A number of our Lake Tahoe ski resorts have also shuttered operations for the day.
In select areas, California has added climbing lanes for trucks. Between here and the Nevada state line, there isn't much development, but it is quite a scenic drive, so enjoy it while you can. And before we get into Nevada, let's briefly look at the other auxiliary routes in California that don't actually touch the parent route of Interstate 80. First, there's Interstate 280. This one functions as the outer loop for the West Bay, running from downtown San Jose to San Francisco. It's probably the most scenic interstate in the Bay Area, and its northern terminus dumps it into the streets of San Francisco, as that interchange with Interstate 80 was never constructed. There's also an Interstate 380, a short freeway that connects I-280 with US 101 near the San Francisco airport. After that, we have Interstate 980, the second highest numbered interstate. Interstate 980 is a short spur route that runs next to downtown Oakland. The freeway itself continues further east as California 24 out to Walnut Creek. And finally is perhaps the most interesting auxiliary route in America, I-238. Despite having a 38 suffix, it is actually considered an auxiliary route of Interstate 80. It was given this number due to California running out of auxiliary routes for I-80 in the state. Now you may be wondering, where is I-180 and I-480? Well, in California, the state doesn't allow state routes and interstates to have the same number. So California 180 and California 480 prevent the use of I-180 and I-480. California 480 was removed when the Embarcadero Freeway collapsed, but by this point, I-238 was already in use. So here we are, Interstate 238. So on to Nevada. Welcome to Nevada. So even though we just passed through the Sierra Nevada mountains to reach here, the people in this state like to call their state Nevada instead. How do you like that American bastardization of a name? Because that certainly makes perfect sense. The Sierra Nevada mountains in Nevada. All right. So we enter the state in those mountains. The signage and elements used on this interstate in Nevada is pretty similar to California. The interstate stays at 4 lanes, and the forests that surround the highway in California give way to drier and more brown settings as you enter Nevada. The first sign of Reno on the horizon is the large casinos that you can see in the distance. After some construction, things open up to 6 lanes as we pass Keystone Avenue. Now, I do appreciate the aesthetic design of the highway here in Nevada, using the desert color on the bridges to match the environment around here. The main interchange here is with Interstate 580 and US 395. I-580 runs south to the capital of Carson City, while US 395 continues north alone towards Susanville, California. Reno is an excellent place to stop and get some rest, as the casino hotels out here are pretty reasonably priced compared to what it costs you to stay in California. The Reno area is one of those that you can move to and escape traffic and the high cost of living in some of the coastal areas. It's growing at a healthy clip, and you gotta love the lack of state income tax in Nevada. I-80's next control city is Elko, which is a very long distance away, but before exiting the Reno area, we enter Sparks. Sparks is a fast-growing suburb of Reno and offers plenty of suburban shopping and other amenities, and this is your last chance before the long journey across the state that is awaiting you ahead. After you're all gassed up and filled up on whatever food you have of choice, we have a 270-mile drive to Elko. Out here, you're going to see a lot of scenery. I won't call it beautiful, but maybe interesting is a better description. The speed limit is generous at 80. One can only imagine what it was like to cross this area back before modern technology and inventions. This area is so empty that just to the south of us is US 50, which is considered to be the loneliest highway in America. It's not all empty, as Winnemucca has a few amenities if you need to stop and take a break. And then we finally reach Elko. Now, I did stop and drive around this area, and even though I'm not the rural living type of guy, it felt like a very peaceful town out here. A nice and quaint small town along the interstate. Now, before reaching the Utah state line is Wells. And then we start to close in on West Wendover. West Wendover is actually popular among folks in Utah who want to get their gambling fix in. Wendover will welcome you. Now, welcome to Utah. Coming into the Beehive State, we are immediately in the town of Wendover. And Wendover is your last chance for amenities and services before getting close to Salt Lake City. Interstate 80 in western Utah is very straight and very flat. And we are driving through the Salt Flats. If you do come out here, you absolutely have to visit the Bonneville Salt Flats. This area almost looks like another planet. Exit 4 will get you to the Bonneville Salt Flats Raceway. And there's a rest area that you can stop at and get a glimpse of them up close and personal. Now, I didn't stop on the eastbound side, but on the westbound side, you can park, hop out, and walk around this vast area. You'll find lots of other travelers out here taking photos and walking through the Salt Flats as well, so enjoy them. It's so quiet out here. It's like a dead silence, like no animals, no life or anything. It's almost like another planet or something. And I don't know what this structure is for. It's just like a random little thing sitting out here. There were some kids out hanging around it earlier. After the Salt Flats rest area is another long and empty journey, but not as long as that one in Nevada. This one is only an hour or so before you reach civilization again, just south of the Great Salt Lake. Once you enter Salt Lake County, things don't change much just yet. It's still 4 lanes with not much going on nearby. Finally, once we reach Salt Lake City, you start to feel like you're around civilization again. You won't get any signage or notification that you're in the city, as Utah is one of the states that doesn't post city limit signs along its highways. Our first major interchange here is for the airport. And then we have Interstate 215, which the locals in Utah like to call the Belt Route. As we approach Interstate 15, we see a sign for Ogden to the north and a concurrency with I-80 to the south. This ramp to I-15 can get pretty busy if you come here at the wrong time. You can take the exit for 600 South if you want to go explore the city, which I do recommend, as Salt Lake City has always been a pretty good time when I've been there. The short concurrency with I-15 is one of the busier sections of interstate in Utah, but to the state's credit, they have designed it well. Outside of peak hours, you can get through here pretty quickly. Pretty soon, the right 3 lanes exit to the right, signed for Cheyenne, which is over 400 miles away, just to give you an idea of how empty it is between here and there. As we head to the east, the Wasatch Mountains are in full view, and they are beautiful out here whether you come in the winter or the summer. We're at 8 lanes for now, and our last exit before climbing the mountains is another interchange with I-215. It terminates here, and I-80 is down to 4 lanes headed uphill. Let's go. Interstate 80 can get pretty busy here, but man, it is a beautiful sight to see. Now, I did say Interstate 70 in Colorado was the most beautiful, but Utah definitely has some stretches of interstate that give it a good run for its money. The road first opens up to 6 lanes and then to 8 lanes, as this is also the road that you'll use if you come to Utah for skiing and other winter sports. At Kimball Junction, you can exit to the south to reach the famous Park City. Now, I personally went out here last year for my first skiing trip and it was fantastic. So feel free to head over and check out the slopes. I highly recommend it. If you're here in the summer, then Park City is a good escape from the higher temperatures in Salt Lake City. There's plenty of more scenic mountain driving along this part of I-80, including a nice rest stop that features an overlook of the Echo Reservoir. Our last major interchange is with I-84, where that one runs back west to Ogden. The last remaining portion of I-80 in Utah consists of more Wasatch Mountain driving, so at least it is nice to look at. And soon enough, we come into our next state, Wyoming, the cowboy state. America's least populated state. Welcome. Now, as soon as we enter Wyoming, it is not empty, but instead we have the town of Evanston. It has all the amenities that you need for the road, a few chain restaurants, gas stations, and hotels, so stop here if necessary. The downtown was also pretty decent for a small town. Now, when you think of Wyoming in your mind, you're probably thinking about this. However, that's quite a ways to the north. This part of Wyoming that we're going through is anything but. You've got mountain driving out here, but it's a far cry from the beauty that we saw in Utah. Personally, between Evanston and Cheyenne on I-80, I'm usually ready to just hurry up and get it over with. And it doesn't help that cell service is also spotty along this route, at least for me with T-Mobile service. Let's get it together, T-Mobile. Some towns you'll pass by along the way are Rawlins and Rock Springs. Then there's Laramie, which contains the University of Wyoming, so there's a bit more going on there than the other towns so far. Now, if you're out here in the summer, the main thing to worry about is the wind. Almost every time I drive through Wyoming, I've seen at least one 18-wheeler blown over by the wind on the side of the road. But if you come out here in the winter, oh boy, you're getting wind, ice, and snow. A recipe for disaster for the inexperienced driver. Wyoming DOT does have an app that you can use to check live conditions and see live video of the roadway in some of the areas. And I learned about that app the hard way. After a long journey, we finally reached Cheyenne, the state capital and largest city. Immediately here is the interchange with I-25, which takes you to Casper to the north or Denver to the south. But perhaps the most interesting thing about Cheyenne in terms of highways is the auxiliary route, Interstate 180. Interstate 180, though signed as an interstate, is a surface boulevard with several traffic lights and a bridge over the Union Pacific Rail Yard. Wyoming had to get that 90% federal funding at any cost, I suppose. Despite being in Wyoming's largest city, I-80 remains a 4-lane roadway through the area, which is more than sufficient as Cheyenne doesn't even have 100,000 people yet. So if you're looking for a slower pace of life with no traffic and cheap housing, then look no further than Cheyenne, Wyoming. Get in while you can. After Cheyenne, there's not much to see other than the small town of Pine Bluffs next to the Nebraska state line, so let's cross over into that state. Enter Nebraska. We are getting towards the heart of the country. Nebraska signage says the good life out here. And my Nebraska folks who might be watching this video, let me know what you think in the comments. Is Nebraska the good life? If you thought the scenery in Wyoming was forgettable, then you haven't seen anything yet. After clearing the Nebraska Panhandle, we encounter Interstate 76. This one was formerly signed as I-80 South and gives you a second chance to head back to Denver. The control city for I-80 is Omaha. which I have to give credit to Nebraska for not using something like Kearney or Grand Island. In this part of Nebraska, I-80 follows along the North Platte River, and although this is a relatively low population density state, there are plenty of towns and places to stop along I-80 through here. It also follows along the Union Pacific Railway, and you can check out the Golden Spike Tower in the city of North Platte. The North Platte River is like a lifeline in this part of Nebraska, as plenty of agriculture and other development follows it through here along with I-80. Interstate 80 departs from the river in Grand Island and heads due east to the capital of Lincoln. The scenery out here is everything you imagine the Great Plains to be. Approaching Lincoln, we are greeted with a recently constructed divergent diamond interchange. Those have become quite popular around the country. And we are up to 6 lanes. Lincoln had a pretty well-developed downtown for its size, and of course the flagship University of Nebraska helps out here. We encounter our first auxiliary route, which is another Interstate 180. And unlike that I-180 in Wyoming, this one is up to interstate standards, and is one of those spurs that drops you off into downtown. As we exit the Lincoln area, the roadway maintains 6 lanes, as we can see that Nebraska has invested some good money into having a proper connection between its capital and its largest city. Between Lincoln and Omaha, we get some gentle rolling hills occasionally to break up the monotony. And this time we cross the main Platte River. And before you know it, we are entering the suburbs of Omaha. Out here, we are surrounded by massive subdivisions of single-family homes, as one thing Nebraska is known for is its abundance of open land. So developers have gone berserk. You can see all the recent and ongoing growth. I-80 opens up to 8 lanes and is clearly the main character in the Omaha area. We have 2 auxiliary routes. First, there's I-680, which forms an eastern and northern loop around the city, while I-480 runs adjacent to the downtown area and across the Missouri River into Iowa. Don't let the fact that it's Nebraska fool you. Omaha has a pretty well urbanized core area, and I-80 has been built up to a wide modern highway through this city. The control city for us is now Des Moines, and before we reach the state line, you will already see signage for Interstate 29, the north-south interstate for the Omaha area, though it doesn't actually cross into Nebraska itself. The bridge itself has been future-proofed with a whopping 10 travel lanes, and an express collector lane system is used once we cross it. So let's get on to the next state. Iowa! The people of Iowa welcome you. Fields of possibilities. Well, they did get the fields part right. And we continue right where we left off. 10 lanes over the Missouri River and an express collector lane system at the interchange with I-29. I-29 North is signed for Sioux City, and if you want to get local access to Council Bluffs or I-29 South, then you use these local lanes. US 6 is also concurrent with us here. If you do want to go on I-29 South, Iowa does still provide access even if you were in the express lanes. It is signed for Kansas City. And after this interchange, we are back down to 4 lanes for the first time since the outskirts of Lincoln. It was a pretty good run. Between here and Des Moines, you're not going to see much of anything. But there are indeed plenty of those fields of opportunity, as the sign claimed. As we enter the Des Moines area, we quickly encounter another major interstate, I-35. At this interchange, we have I-235, if you want to continue straight into Des Moines, I-35 south to Kansas City, or run on a concurrency with I-35 north around Des Moines. Fortunately, Iowa provides 2 travel lanes for traffic to continue on to I-80 eastbound. Surprisingly, this concurrency of 2 major interstates is only 6 lanes, but it mostly gets the job done, as Des Moines is on a smaller side when it comes to metro areas. Northeast of Des Moines, we've got another interchange, and this time we on I-80 will be the ones that continue straight, while I-35 exits north to Minneapolis, and of course I-235 will take you back towards downtown Des Moines. Davenport is now the control city for us as we prepare to cross the eastern half of Iowa. Things on this side don't look too much different from the western side of Iowa. Fields of opportunity are in abundance as you cross the gently rolling hills of America's heartland. Our next area of action is Iowa City. Near Iowa City is a major interchange with the auxiliary route I-380, which takes you north to Cedar Rapids or Waterloo. Iowa City is home to the flagship University of Iowa, and like many college towns, its core area is very walkable. Also, US 6 has been hanging around us for all this time that we've been in Iowa, and it rejoins as we approach the Quad Cities. The Quad Cities consist of Davenport and Bettendorf, Iowa, along with Rock Island and Moline, Illinois. Davenport is the largest of these cities, which is why it got the spot on the signs for the control city. The first interstate you'll see is I-280, which loops south around these cities and provides access to the Illinois side, while I-80 itself loops around the north of the Iowa cities. After a cloverleaf with US 81 is Interstate 74. At Interstate 74, you will see a sign for Peoria, but through traffic is advised to stay on I-80 as we will encounter I-74 again on the southeastern side of the metro area. But if you like bridges, then the I-74 bridge over the Mississippi River is far cooler than the Interstate 80 bridge. Very little development from the Quad Cities reaches across I-80 as this is a relatively slow growing area. So let's cross the mighty Mississippi and get into our next state. Our next state is Illinois, and in Illinois it seems that all roads lead to Chicago, as our first major interchange is with I-88. Although Dixon is the control city, continuing along I-88 will take you to Chicagoland, but we will be staying on Interstate 80. A few miles later, we see a couple of familiar highways again, with I-74 and I-280 in a concurrency. At this cloverleaf interchange, the two through lanes continue as I-74 east, and surprisingly, the mighty Interstate 80 exits onto a single lane cloverleaf ramp for eastbound traffic. Chicago is officially signed here as the control city, so we are on our way. In western Illinois, I-80 is a standard 4-lane rural freeway as it passes through mostly farmland. US 6 is still omnipresent, generally following the same path as I-80 and crossing it occasionally. The first action here is Interstate 180. This spur route runs to the south to Hennepin, a very small town with a population of 757. Now this might be the smallest control city on any interstate highway. Even Lyman, Colorado has more people. But the fun fact about this highway is that it was specifically built for Jones and Laughlin Steel Company in Hennepin so that trucks from the plant could more easily get to I-80. Well, that plant closed in 2009, and today Interstate 180 is one of the least traveled interstates in the entire country. Continuing on, we reach I-39 in LaSalle. This interstate runs north to Rockford or south to Bloomington. A standard cloverleaf is provided here, which is sufficient for these two rural interstates to cross one another. At exit 90, you will see signage for Ottawa. No, not the one in Canada, but this one here in Illinois is notable for its radioactive contamination from a watch dial company that used to paint dials with a powder containing radium. Things are quiet between here and Chicagoland, and our first sign that we are entering that huge metro area will be Interstate 55, an interstate that we talked about not too long ago. I-55 North will take you to the heart of Chicago, as I-80 bypasses the core of the city to the south. We are also entering the city of Joliet after this interchange. This outdated section of I-80 in Will County is currently undergoing a major reconstruction project that will widen and improve it to accommodate the population growth and heavy freight traffic in the area. Near downtown Joliet, we finally open things up to 6 lanes. Traffic begins picking up out here as Chicago is infamous for its horrible traffic. Chicago is also known for its large number of tolled interstate highways, the first of which we'll encounter is I-355. This one is signed for Rockford for some reason, but in reality it functions as an outer loop for Chicago to connect some of its outer suburbs. Up next is Interstate 57. This interstate also takes you towards downtown Chicago to the north, and to the south is signed for Memphis, as there are no other major cities along this route. However, in the future, it is to provide a direct connection between Chicago and Little Rock, Arkansas. After I-57, Kedzie Avenue is your last chance to exit before tolls come to I-80 itself. Interstate 294 joins, and we are now on the Tri-State Tollway with 10 and then 8 lanes for travel. The Tri-State Tollway is extremely busy, so do not expect smooth flowing traffic out here unless it's Sunday or late at night. Near South Holland, I-94 joins the party, and its I-294 auxiliary route officially ends. Illinois thanks you for using the tollway and paying tribute. Then we are on a toll-free concurrency with I-94 with Indiana as a control state. Or you still have one more chance to get to downtown Chicago by taking I-94 westbound. Man, Chicago does have a ton of interstate highways, huh? This concurrency widens up to a whopping 10 lanes of traffic, and I have to say it definitely needs all 10 of them. And just a few miles later, we are leaving Illinois. Welcome to Indiana, crossroads of America. Now we are still in the Chicago area here, as northwestern Indiana is a part of its metro area. We also still have those 10 lanes of travel as the concurrency with I-94 continues. US 6 is riding along here too. Soon we enter Gary, the industrial city that probably is the best example of America's deindustrialization in the 20th century that you can find. It also has several major interstate highways crossing through. The first of which is Interstate 65, a major north-south interstate. To the north, it is signed for the Indiana Toll Road or Interstate 90, while to the south, you'll see Indianapolis. A separate interchange is provided for the movement to I-65 southbound from the main interchange. We on I-80 also lose 2 lanes on each side here and drop down to 6. Then we meet the toll road ourselves, up close and personal. I-94 heads to Detroit, and I-80 is again relegated to a single cloverleaf ramp, which takes us to the Indiana Toll Road, where we join forces with Interstate 90. In Indiana, I-80 bypasses most of its population centers, but it does skirt the South Bend and Elkhart areas. As is typical with toll roads, you have these bizarre interchanges that were designed to accommodate toll plazas. Despite this being 2 major interstates running concurrently, Indiana leaves it at 4 lanes. You'll see a ton of truck traffic out here, as this is a key section of the freight corridor between Chicago and New York City. Before leaving the state, we encounter I-69. Indiana is one of the few states that has completed its section of I-69, and it can take you to either Lansing or Fort Wayne. Indiana hits you with one last toll before exiting the state, and then it is on to the next. Ohio, the Buckeye State. Entering Ohio, we remain in a concurrency with Interstate 90 and tolled. In Ohio, this is known as the Ohio Turnpike. Things remain with the standard 4 lanes entering the Toledo area. The first interstate that we encounter is I-475, but there is no interchange to access it. Our actual first interchange is with the main route, I-75, after crossing the Maumee River. For a toll road, the Ohio Turnpike in this area is in an embarrassing condition. Where's all that revenue going, Ohio? I-75 is signed for Dayton and Toledo, and of course, if you continue further north, it will take you to Detroit. As we leave Toledo, we pass through some Ohio farmland and skirt towns such as Fremont, Sandusky, and Norwalk. And if you head up to Sandusky, you can get your amusement park fix in, as it is well known for its entertainment offerings. As we begin approaching the Cleveland area, development starts to return to the sides of the highway. And also, it is time for the long partnership with I-90 to come to an end. Interstate 90 exits to the right and takes you towards the heart of Cleveland, while I-80 continues as the Ohio Turnpike and is signed for through traffic in this area. We are rolling with 6 lanes, and before long, we see the auxiliary route Interstate 480, which is also signed for Cleveland. The Cleveland area is swimming in interstates and has some of the best flowing traffic of any large metro area in the country. Interstate 80 turns to the southeast, away from the city, and has junctions with Interstates 71 and then 77. I-271 crosses over, but there is no direct interchange. Ohio 8 is next, and this one is a freeway too, which can take you south to Akron, birthplace of the 3rd best basketball player of all time. In Streetsboro, I-480 comes back home and signals the end of the suburban development of the Cleveland area. Despite this, Ohio has beefed up the turnpike to 6 lanes even outside of the Cleveland area. Ohio 6 will take you to Warren, and then we encounter Interstate 76. Here, we on I-80 will leave the turnpike, while I-76 will take the reins. And this marks the end of the toll section of Interstate 80. Thank you. I-80 heads east towards the Youngstown area, another city that has seen better days since the decline of American manufacturing. There's an auxiliary route here, I-680, that loops towards the city and back to the turnpike. And that about does it for Ohio, so on to our next to the last state for Interstate 80, Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, I-80 bypasses most of the population centers, so it's not a route for those who are looking to see major cities. However, it is a very beautiful and scenic route through the state, passing through some of its best offerings. This is the route that some officials in the state did not want to be built, as it provides a free alternative to the expensive Pennsylvania Turnpike to the south. Pennsylvania did indeed attempt to toll this route in the early 2000s. However, these plans were ultimately rejected by the feds. The first interstate we cross is I-79, which runs north to Erie and south to Pittsburgh. We then pass by towns such as Brookville, Clarion, and Du Bois, before meeting the strangely numbered Interstate 99. Now, I know the numbering for this one drives some interstate purists absolutely crazy. Interstate 99, inland from the coast, while Interstates 95 and a bunch of other lower number interstates are to the east. Pennsylvania is currently in the process of building a proper interchange here to connect Interstate 99 to Interstate 80. At Interstate 81, which runs north to Scranton or south to the capital of Harrisburg, we have the crossing of these two major truck corridors. And afterwards, we enter into the Poconos. Enjoy the scenic views. It's so much more peaceful up here than on the turnpike. Speaking of which, I-476, the Pennsylvania Turnpike Northern Extension, is here, and it also runs north to Scranton, as well as down south to Allentown and Philadelphia. And then we have this very spacious interchange with I-380, which again heads north to Scranton. Now there's a left exit here, but when the interchange is this big and there's this much space, and it's a rural area, it's not that disruptive to traffic flow as they normally are. Man, these northern states have a ton of interstate highways, huh? As we approach New Jersey, we have the town of Stroudsburg near the state line, and to cross into that state, we have the only toll on I-80 in Pennsylvania. So pay up, enjoy the splendid views provided by the Delaware Water Gap, and prepare to enter our final state on this journey. New Jersey, the last state on I-80, America's most densely populated state, the place where you cannot pump your own gas, and the home of the New Jersey jug handle. Welcome. We enter the state along this narrow pass next to the Delaware River. 4 lanes quickly give way to 6, and you don't see or feel the density just yet, but you will. This portion of the state is surprisingly scenic and different from what you typically expect of New Jersey. Warren County is the only county in northern New Jersey that is not a part of the New York metro area. Once we enter Sussex County, we are under New York's influence. Yes, it reaches that far out. The development also starts here, and it is continuous for the rest of the route. I-80 opens up to 8 lanes as we continue east, and we are surrounded by the New Jersey suburbs of New York. Our first interstate interchange is with I-287 in Parsippany. I-287 forms an outer loop around New York City, coming off of Interstate 95. Next, we have a split in the roadway where the auxiliary route I-280 heads towards the Oranges and Newark, while I-80 shows signage for Patterson and New York. However, if Midtown Manhattan is your destination, then you're better off using Interstate 280. Interstate 80 drops down to 6 lanes for a bit before growing back up to 8 in the Patterson area. For the rest of the route, we'll be passing through the most dense territory we've seen so far since San Francisco. Development is packed around this highway, and you really get a feel of how dense New Jersey is. For the last few miles on I-80, New Jersey uses an express and local lane system to separate traffic, similar to what we saw in Iowa. Don't worry if you get it confused. All roads lead to New York, and you can see the massive skyline in the distance. After crossing the Hackensack River, you'll see overhead signage for I-95 and the New Jersey Turnpike, which lets you know it's almost over for I-80. I-80's end is shown on the overhead signage above as we merge into I-95 to officially mark the end of this mighty superhighway that has taken us all the way across the country. Now, even though Interstate 80 does not enter New York proper, we are in its metro area. And to continue into the city, all you have to do is traverse the worst bottleneck in America, cross the George Washington Bridge, and then head down the West Side Highway to experience all the sights, sounds, and joy that come with New York City. Now pat yourself on the back because you have made it. San Francisco to New York City, Interstate 80 complete. All right, guys, woo, what a journey. San Francisco to New York City. Now that we've seen everything, we know what it's like. Let me know down in the comments what you think. If Interstate 80 is the best cross-country interstate. I mean, it did make a good case. You got the cities. You got San Francisco. You got New York City. You got Chicago. You got Cleveland. We got Reno. We got the scenery. We had the Sierra Nevada mountains. We had the Poconos. We had the Salt Flats. We had Utah. So I don't know, guys. That's pretty tough to top. That's pretty tough to beat. Now, you do have Wyoming and Nebraska, and Iowa's not too much exciting either. But either way, I think I-80 is the best. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know what you thought about the video, if you have anything to add, or if you've ever been on Interstate 80. Thanks for watching as always, and I will see you next time.